Kia ora, Seppo here from Caveman Bets with a few college football picks for championship weekend coming up. We've got three different games that I like some picks on. The others are just absolutely rubbish. I have no idea what's going on in most of these games, but three games really like some value here. First of all, we've got Georgia going against Alabama. Alabama has not really played too well the last few weeks, whereas Georgia's been on a tear, absolutely on defense. Can't get really more than 14, 17 points against them, but Georgia hasn't played anyone in about a month and a half. I don't think they're going to be able to stay with Alabama the entire game. I still have Georgia winning this one, but I really like Alabama plus 6.5. Alabama doesn't really lose by much if they do lose, and quite great at comebacks, as you've seen the last few weeks with Alabama. They're young, they're talented. Sometimes they don't know what they're doing, but they have that coach in Nick Saban who I think is just going to get the best of Kirby Smart. Usually Saban, just like Bill Belichick, gets the better of his disciples, people that have worked with him before. So really liking that plus 6.5. I can't see Alabama getting blown out in this one. As well, Georgia obviously wants to go undefeated, but a little less at stake than Alabama, who has to win pretty much to get into the playoff. I cannot see a Nick Saban team not making the playoff. I can see Georgia coming to play, wanting to play, but this offense has been inconsistent for Georgia. Their quarterback play is, I would say, even subpar and really gets lifted up by their skill position, their offensive line, and especially their front seven on defense. I've seen many games where the Georgia team is just kind of doing its thing, not really going too much down the field, dink and dunk a little bit, lots of mistakes, and then the defense gets a pick and a fumble recovery, and then it's 28-10 when it used to be 17-10, and then the other team doesn't score again because it's really, really hard to come back against Georgia. That is the only thing that's really holding me back from running to the bank on this one. It's a bet that I like. I don't think I would go more than probably a unit, maybe two, but I wouldn't go into the 3 or 4 units like we did on our last NFL pick. Next up, we have Houston against Cincinnati. Now, this game is going to be great. Cincinnati, been a big fan of all year. I had a little bit on their quarterback getting the Heisman. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. The Cincinnati defense has been good but not great. I think they've given up a bit too much points against some kind of subpar teams. Really, they came to play against SMU last week, but I do wonder they put so much energy into last game to get into that top four that especially defensively there might be a little bit of a letdown there. Whereas Houston, other than their very first week, have been on fire offensively. So because of this, not getting near the spread at all. Houston, I kind of like to keep it close, but loving the over 52.5. Both of these offenses, almost without any exceptions, I believe one exception on each for each team, getting above 24 points. So as long as both teams score 24, you're most likely going to hit that over. It's 24-24, obviously going into overtime. The only thing I would worry about is a 27-24. But I really think this is both teams scoring in the 30s, possibly Cincinnati blowing things out and going, 38-21. I cannot see this being a low scoring game. Cincinnati's defense could hold Houston to 21, but I really don't see it. I think Houston's offense has just been going fantastic lately. If you look at relevant matchups where they've both played the same team, they're both usually scoring quite a bit of points. And these offenses should know what the other defense is going to be doing. It's not like this is the first time they've played each other. I really like offensive innovation later in the year, as defensive innovation is quite hard with young college teams compared to in the NFL where the defense can get better as the season goes along. Now, last up, we've got Michigan versus Iowa. This is one of my favorite bets, really, of the last few weeks, college football wise. Once again, not something I love because there's a risk of Iowa only scoring 10 points. But I really liking this Iowa plus 11 against Michigan. Michigan basically played their Super Bowl last week against Ohio State. Played great, played fantastically, ran all over Ohio State. But run defenses is not Ohio State's specialty. It's getting into a shootout, going up and down the field. Whereas Iowa's going to keep things tight. They're not going to make mistakes. They're going to play their run gaps. They're not going to get out of position. And I really think Iowa's going to keep this close and not get blown out. The only way they do get blown out is if they're so good at run defense, Michigan somehow gets their passing offense together enough that this ends up being a 28-10 kind of thing, and Iowa just can't come back enough and keep it close enough. But I really think this is going to be close until the fourth quarter, and then Michigan starts pulling away. Part of why, as well, I can't really get on the under because even though I like Iowa and their defense, if that defense does really shut Michigan down on the run, a Michigan passing offense that's really hit and miss could get a few plays down the field or could throw some interceptions, and Iowa could have some short fields and score a little bit more than we thought they were going to score. So, to recap, Alabama plus 6.5, Houston, Cincinnati over 52.5, and Iowa plus 11.5 are the picks that I like for this weekend. None of the other games I like in any of the matchups, so stick with those three. If I had to rate them, I would go with Iowa plus 11 as my best bet there. Next with Alabama plus 6.5, and finally with Houston and Cincinnati plus 52.5. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Takite.